children who love their fathers make an effort, however imperfect, to do what they ask, for they trust them with their very lives. But Israel is like a runaway teenager. They have been estranged from Yahweh so long, they have forgotten how to trust. The day is not far off, though, when their national memory will get jogged. Then
they shall walk after Yahweh. He will roar like a lion. When he roars, then his sons shall come trembling from the west. They shall come trembling like a bird from Egypt, like a dove from the land of Assyria, and I will let them dwell in their houses. Hosea 12:10-11.
The gathering of Israel to their own land is the first step toward their great awakening. This process has already begun, but it is far from complete. Their next step will be their cleansing.
They shall not defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will deliver them from all of their dwelling places in which they have sinned, and I will cleanse them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God. Ezekiel 37:23.
Carved idols aren't a real big problem anymore, of course, but Israel still serves its false gods: money, pride, tradition, intellect. And don't look so smug. Christians have their own unique and stupid golden calves. How many churches have split over music style or the color of the new sanctuary carpet? The cleansing, the softening of Israel's national heart will occur when Yahweh destroys the armies of Gog. Israel, and much of the rest of the world for that matter, will finally be ready to listen.
So I will make my set-apart name known in the midst of my people Yisrael, and I will not let them profane my set-apart name any more. Then the nation shall know that I am Yahweh, the set-apart one in Israel. Surely it is coming, and it shall be done, says Yahweh. This is the day of which I have spoken. Ezekiel 38:7-8.
Looking ahead, Hosea gives us a peek at the bottom line.
I will heal Israel's backsliding. I will love them freely, for my anger has turned away from him. I will be like the dew to Israel. He shall grow like the lily, and lengthen his roots like Lebanon. His branches shall spread. His beauty shall be like an olive tree, and his fragrance like Lebanon. Those who dwell under his shadow shall return. They shall be revived like grain, and grow like a vine. Their scent shall be like the wine of Lebanon. Ephraim shall say, What have I to do any more with idols? I have heard and observed him. I am like a green cypress tree. Your fruit is found in me. Hosea 14:4-8.
But not yet. We still have the hell on earth of the remainder of the tribulation to endure. I've included that passage here instead of including it with scores of similar passages in the chapter on the millennial reign of Christ, because what's coming in the short run is unbelievably grim. It's the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Asaph voiced what has become Israel's recurring nightmare. Now, for the last time, the Jews will pray with the psalmist.
O God, the nations have come into your inheritance. Your set-apart temple they have defiled. They have laid Jerusalem in heaps. The dead bodies of your servants they have given as food for the birds of the heaven, the flesh of those you have set apart to the beasts of the earth. Your blood they have shed like water all around Jerusalem, and there is no one to bury them. We have become a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and derision to those who are around us.
Successive waves of invasion, beginning with Babylon's, have brought Jerusalem to its knees, and the latest, the grand expedition of Magog, had gotten to the very gates of the city before Yahweh had lethally intervened. The Muslims did not succeed in taking Jerusalem, but Israel's celebration over their annihilation is proving premature. What Islam had failed to accomplish with military might, the Antichrist has achieved with stealth and treachery. And the Jews, seeing their elusive dream of the peace of Jerusalem slip from their grasp once again, cry out,
How long, Yahweh, will you be angry forever? Will your jealousy burn like fire? Pour out your wrath on the nations that do not know you, and on the kingdoms that do not call on your name.
By this time, that's everybody.
For they have devoured Jacob, and laid waste his dwelling place. Oh, do not remember former iniquities against us. Let your tender mercies come speedily to meet us, for we have been brought very low. Help us, O God of our salvation, for the glory of your name, and deliver us, and provide atonement for our sins, for your name's sake. Why should the nations say, Where is their God? Let there be known among the nations in our sight the avenging of the blood of your servants, which has been shed. Psalm 79, 1-10.
If God were like a man, he would be angry forever. The Jews plead with him to
provide atonement for our sins.
I did that, Yahweh could rightfully proclaim. You had him crucified. I raised him from the dead, but even then only a handful of you followed him. So what do I care if...
They have devoured Jacob and laid waste his dwelling place.
But Yahweh is not a man, nor are his thoughts petty and vindictive like ours are. He dreams of only one thing above all others, restoring his chosen people to fellowship. He does care. Yahweh will not be angry with Israel forever. Their time of spiritual exile will end, but not until God has given the Gentiles all the time they need to make up their minds whom they will serve. We've had our 2,000 years. It's the Jews' turn again. As Paul wrote,
For I do not desire, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own opinion, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. And so all Israel will be saved, as it is written, The deliverer will come out of Zion, and he will turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant with them, when I take away their sins. Romans 11:25-27.
Paul was quoting from the writings of Isaiah, but somewhere between the Hebrew text, the Septuagint Greek translation Paul probably used, the Koine Greek he wrote in, the Latin through which it was transmitted, and the English text we have now, there was a slight shift in the meaning, though both permutations are doubtless true. Isaiah put it this way,
The Redeemer will come to Zion,
not out of, as in Romans.
And to those who turn from transgression in Jacob, says Yahweh. As for me, says Yahweh, this is my covenant with them, my Spirit who is upon you, and my words, which I have put in your mouth, shall not depart from your mouth, nor from the mouth of your descendants, nor from the mouth of your descendants' descendants, says Yahweh, from this time and forevermore. Isaiah 59:20-21.
Since it is painfully clear that Yahweh's promise of sending his Spirit upon Jacob, Israel, is yet future, this passage must refer to the coming millennial blessings of the Jews. But the process by which this happens is clearer in the Isaiah passage. The risen Christ will come to Zion. He will come to the repentant Jews. We are being given a glimpse at the real Day of Atonement, the actual day upon which the prophetic holy convocation described in Leviticus will literally be fulfilled, just like all 5 before it were. Of course, the Feast of Trumpets, prophetic of the rapture, is yet future as I write these words. The process of Israel's return to fellowship with their God will not be complete until they recognize and accept their Messiah, the risen Yahshua, personally. Remember Yom Kippur's requirements. First, Israel must observe the Sabbath rest. That is, in this context, they must not work for their own salvation, but rather accept the sacrifice provided by Yahweh. And second, they must afflict their souls. Nothing could afflict the souls of Israel like a sudden and personal confrontation with their Messiah, still bearing the marks of his crucifixion, not coming, but returning to reign in glory. At that moment, they'll all know exactly what it was like for Joseph's older brothers, see Genesis 45, when they found out that he was still alive and now in charge. I mean, what do you say at a time like that? Oops. Zechariah describes the moment.
And I will pour on the house of David, and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the spirit of grace and supplication. Then they will look upon me whom they have pierced. Yes, they will mourn for him, as one mourns for his only begotten son, and grieve for him, as one grieves for a firstborn. In that day there shall be a great mourning in all Jerusalem, like the mourning at Hadad-rimmon, in the plain of Megiddo. And the land shall mourn, every family by itself, all the families that remain, every family by itself, and their wives by themselves. Zechariah 12:10-12, 14.
That's what it means to be afflicted in their souls. It has nothing to do with ritual fasting or uncomfortable shoes, and everything to do with the realization that the whole nation has been living a horrendous lie for the last 2,000 years. Oh, they'll fast all right. Nobody will have an appetite. They'll weep. They'll pray. A little vomit won't be inappropriate. Everybody will want to just be alone with their thoughts. Affliction of the soul. What else do we know for sure about the Day of Atonement? The date. The 10th day of the month of Tishri on the Hebrew calendar, which falls in September or October. But what year? For several rather obvious reasons, I'm convinced that the ultimate Day of Atonement will happen near the very end of the tribulation, 5 days from the end to be exact. To explain, I'll have to let a cat from a future chapter out of the bag a little early. The 7th and final holy day on the Hebrew calendar is the Feast of Tabernacles. It commemorates, among other things, the day when Yahshua will begin his earthly reign. This feast begins on the 15th day of Tishri, 5 days after Yom Kippur. So, why do I think this Day of Atonement will be in the same year as the definitive Feast of Tabernacles? First, look again at the Zechariah passage above. The mourning, the affliction of the soul, occurs when the Jews look on me whom they pierced. When Christ comes, he will touch down on the Mount of Olives, that is, in Jerusalem. The believing Jews, that is, those who have thankfully recognized Yahweh's mighty hand in their deliverance from Magog, have been living in self-imposed exile ever since a month before the middle of the tribulation, that is, day 1230. But Revelation 12:6 specifically states that
The woman, Yisrael, fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
That leaves a 30-day window at the very end in which some of them will return to Jerusalem. As you might imagine, things will be utterly chaotic by then, and the Antichrist will have long since given up on the idea of controlling Israel or dealing with individual Jews. Now he's bent on destroying the whole nation, but his iron grip on the world has degenerated into palsied spasms by now, and the times of the Gentiles, as measured by their ability to tread the holy city underfoot for a period of 42 months, see Revelation 11:2, are just about over.